layouts that they do.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Elmhurst City Hall. This is Tuesday, January 20th, 2009. Would you please all rise? Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention that today we had a new President of the United States sworn in. And I, like all Americans, wish him the best. He's got a tough job. The country's in a tough spot. His success will be our success. I'm going to add for the record here that I didn't vote for him. But our president is our president. And he deserves our respect and our congratulations. And I think there's no better time to keep that in mind as we pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. I'd ask our clerk to please call our, take our roll, establish a quorum.
Regan, absent. Gutenkopf, here. Leader, here. Shea, here. Graham,
Here.
Rose, here. Dow, absent. Hipskin,
Here.
Moriarty,
Here.
Nybo,
Here.
Sapaniak,
Here.
Morley,
Here.
Lumnicki,
Here.
Mulliner, absent. 11 present, 3 absent.
11 present, 3 absent. We do have a quorum. Very good. Receipt of written communications and petitions from the public. Do we have any such written communications? A written communication. Yes, ma'am. Can you please go to that microphone over there? Is it a petition? Is it a letter? What, can you tell me what it is?
Certainly, sir. It's a handout for the aldermen. We have copies for each of the aldermen here.
Okay, very good. Then simply hand it in to the city clerk, and she to it that they get distributed. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone? Okay, then moving on, we go to our public forum. This is the point in our agenda where anyone in the council chambers can address the Elmhurst City Council on any issue of public interest here in the city. Does anybody wish to do so this evening? Okay, got a couple of hands up. Let me tell you how we do this, just in case you've never been here before. A couple of things. First of all, we ask that you not move to a microphone until you've been recognized by the chair. This ensures that we don't have people arguing over who's next. That's important on a night when it's crowded and there's opposing sides. It's particularly important. We ask that you start with your name and your home address. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. We ask that you realize those minutes are not transferable. If you're here with 4 people, you don't get 12 minutes. You can't say if you've been to the last 5 meetings, you don't get 15 minutes. Everybody gets 3 minutes. Tell us whatever is on your mind. We're more than happy to listen. We ask that you not ask a question for which you need an immediate answer. If you want to pose a question, we will hear it. We'll not get into a back and forth at this point. This is kind of like a hearing. We're here to hear whatever's on your mind, whatever concern you have, whatever issue you want to bring before us. We will listen. Maybe in the future, maybe an elected official will discuss your comments during a debate on an agenda item. Maybe an elected official will get back to you in the next couple of days. Maybe the city manager or some member of his staff will get back to you. Maybe you won't hear from anybody. But in any case, we will hear your question or comment. So, again, who would like to be recognized? Sir on the aisle, and then we'll come to back to the lady who gave us the written material.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, members of the City Council. My name is Jeff Houston, 857 Linden Avenue. While collecting signatures in support of my candidacy for alderman of the 6th Ward in the upcoming consolidated election, I learned of the growing concern of many of my neighbors. As you are all aware, last year some of the merchants of my ward experienced armed robberies. Suburban Bank and Trust, Harris Bank, and then most recently our neighborhood Domino's Pizza were robbed by gunpoint in broad daylight. The merchants and neighbors of this area expressed to me several of their concerns, which they asked me to convey to you this evening. The first concern was that many of the merchants were concerned that the response time to these incidents from the Elmhurst Police Department was way too slow. Secondly, many of the merchants and the immediate neighboring residents had no knowledge of these incidents and were not made aware of these incidents except if they read them in the newspaper or heard about it from via word of mouth. And third, many also expressed their concern that with this ever-worsening economy, our area, our specific area down in South York, which is already very vulnerable to this type of crime due to our close proximity to easy getaways, namely the Eisenhower and Roosevelt Road, that we anticipate even more of these brazen crimes in the upcoming year. Thankfully, we've been spared any innocent loss of life so far. Therefore, I would like to respectfully ask what, if anything, the city is doing now or that they can do in the future to address my neighbors' heartfelt concerns. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to bring this troubling matter to your collective attention.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mimi Black. I live at 275 East Cayuga Avenue, and I thank you for this opportunity this evening. I represent a group of Elmhurst residents who respectfully urge the city to support a program that's been referred to the Public Affairs and Safety Committee. It is a program that will save the city money. The city has had to pay to remove and euthanize a steadily increasing number of feral cats over the past few years. Feral cats are not strays, but rather cats that have been born in the wild and therefore are unaccustomed to humans. As our handouts will show you, removal drives costs for the city in both direct and indirect costs. And as the city's own website says, removal doesn't solve the problem. Where cats are removed, other cats move in and multiply. We ask the city to support the proven, life-saving, and money-saving practice of trap-neuter-return, or TNR. Trap-neuter-return is a humane, non-lethal approach to reducing the rapidly growing population of feral cats in an area. Volunteers trap the cats, pay for veterinarian costs to spay or neuter, vaccinate, and microchip the cats before returning them to where they'd been living. The Humane Society of the United States recognizes TNR as the only solution to the problem. It is so successful and cost-effective that many cities, towns, and counties throughout the nation are now supporting it, and the number grows every month. Neighboring counties, Lake, Cook, and McHenry County all support TNR, and efforts are underway for DuPage County to endorse TNR as well. The state of Illinois believes so strongly in TNR that it publicly backs it with financial backing. With the passage of Anna's Law in 2005, residents in municipalities that endorse TNR pay only $15 to spay or neuter, microchip, and vaccinate each feral cat. The only costs to the city of Elmhurst for our proposed program would be in attorney's fees to insert clarifying language in key city ordinances to enable TNR and create a private, not-for-profit TNR organization of Elmhurst residents. The benefits of the city's endorsement of TNR would go well beyond cost control. It would reduce nuisance calls and help protect public health. Endorsement of TNR would neatly complement the city's character counts and Cool Cities responsible citizen initiatives. Moreover, with its public support of TNR, the city would be seen as a positive role model for the rest of the county and beyond. Thank you for your time.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir, on the aisle. There's a microphone right there.
My name is Bill Trudeau, 558 Fairview in Elmhurst. I've spoken about this before. It's been a while. My wife made me promise that I would take a break from it. I stopped a year ago Christmas. She said when the next election cycle comes up, I can pick it up again. So here I am. My thought is that with revenue streams dropping the way they are for the city, perhaps one of the things that you could look at is actually finding people that break ordinances in town. Most of you will, you sit up there, you take time away from your family, you pass ordinances. To me, it would be a little bit frustrating if nobody ever enforced what you guys were doing up there. So here goes. This was just a trip, about a half an hour today. I had to go from point A to point B to point C and back home. I found a few things that have been going on for quite a while that it just boggles my mind if I was a code enforcement officer, how I wouldn't see these things over and over and over again. 660 Sunnyside. There's been a dump truck parked at this home for 3 months. It's got a D plate on it in violation of 3 different Elmhurst ordinances. The home is for sale. A builder has bought it, and he's building quite a few homes on the same block. 880 Spring Road, there's always 6 cars in the driveway. Elmhurst ordinances limit vehicles to 4. 3 of them are disabled. One of them is parked on the lawn. That's been there for 2 years. I actually, an Elmhurst police officer was radaring in front of this home one day. I pulled over and asked him if he could cite some of the cars. He said, "What for?" It didn't do much good to explain it after that point. 719 Hillside, there's been a porta potty on the parkway for over a year. 203 Southwest Avenue. This is my favorite because this was my first home in Elmhurst. An addition was put on this home 3 years ago. It's 2 foot 10 inches from the lot line. I brought it to the building department's attention. They said they'd look into it. I've been waiting for 3 years for an answer. Let me see here. 178 North Route 83, Elite Auto Company. There are 3 signs on the state right-of-way saying no parking on state right-of-way, tow-away zone. Within that zone, there are 24 cars parked. Those are $100 a day. You know, you could make some money on this. We have a real estate sign ordinance, which I talked about the evening that the hospital vote was up for, that limits residential real estate signs to 6 square feet, 6 feet from the lot line, and 4 feet high. The commercial version of that is 16 square feet. So along Route 83 today, as I was driving, I noticed a couple of large ones. 909 South Route 83, 48 square feet, 7 feet high. 925 South Route 83, 32 square feet, 8 feet high. 1015 South Route 83, this one's 32 feet and only 6 feet high, but it is lighted in violation of another ordinance. And then the last one is between Frontage Road and Route 83 at about where Riverside Drive ends. Now bear in mind you're supposed to have this at 16 square feet. This one's 384 square feet, 13 high, and that's been there for a number of years.
Mr. Trudeau, you're over your 3 minutes, sir. Could you wrap it up?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone at all? All right. Thank you very much. We'll return to the dais. As always, I thank you all for coming out this evening and sharing your thoughts with us. We appreciate you putting your issues before us and into the public forum. I learned something new almost every time, and I enjoyed your comments very much this evening, so thank you very much for being here. Number 4 on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept the contents of the consent agenda in its entirety. Alderman Gutenkopf moves, Alderman Hipskin seconds. Does anybody have any item they'd like to remove from this evening's consent agenda? No? Okay. Oh, Alderman Gutenkopf?
I'd like to remove 4, H from the consent agenda.
H. You'd like to remove item H. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, I have a motion to accept the contents of the consent agenda minus item H. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Ask the City Clerk Spencer to please note for the record that it was unanimous, as indeed it must be by state statute. I now need a motion to approve the contents of the consent agenda minus item H. Mr. Morley moves. Second from Mr. Bram. I ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Morley.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
Regan.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Gow. Absent. Hipskin.
Aye.
Moriarty.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Sapaniak.
Aye.
Lumnicki.
Aye.
Mulliner. Absent. 12 ayes, 0 nays, 2 absent.
12 ayes, 0 nays, 2 absent. That motion carries. Okay, very good. Just for clarity here, we have a revised agenda. I want to make sure that we remove the right one, so we might have to circle back here if we didn't. But Alderman Gutenkopf, the item you wanted to remove and discuss was the Prospect Avenue annexation? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what I had. Is everybody on the same page? Does the city clerk concur with that thought? Okay, just making sure we're all together here. Very good. All right, so we have accepted the consent agenda and passed it minus H. We now circle back to the item, which is the Prospect Avenue annexation and SSA proposal. This, as you can see, is a report out of DP&Z. I would ask the clerk to please read the recommendation thereof, and then we'll get it before the council.
Therefore, it is the recommendation of the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee that the property at OS 740 Prospect be voluntarily annexed through an amendment to the existing annexation agreement, and that the same procedure be used to annex the property at OS 730 Prospect. If the owners agree, and if not, that such property, along with the one located at OS 741 Prospect, be forcibly annexed. Respectfully submitted, Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee, signed by Susan J. Rose, Chair, Norman Leader, Vice Chair, unsigned by Diane Gutenkauf, Alderman, First Ward.
Okay, very good. Alderman Rose, your committee, look to you for a motion.
I move recommendation of move acceptance of the recommendation of the report as read.
Okay, very good. And a second from Alderman Leader. Alderman Gutenkauf, I'm just going to go to you momentarily. Momentarily, is this just about your signature there? Did you want to add it or subtract it, or?
It's unsigned because I didn't receive the report until after 3:30 on Thursday, and they'd already gone out.
Okay, did you want to add your signature to the report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. But it is still in play, it is still in front of us. Alderman Rose, please tell us about it, and we'll see if there's any other questions or comments.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will make a few comments about this. I was struck with City Clerk's reading of this, because I think that's what everyone thinks when you hear forcible annexation. It's something I want to say that we do not propose to the City Council lightly. Our committee looked at this very closely. We looked at it for some amount of time. We believe that this really is best not just for the property owners on Prospect, but for the city of Elmhurst. There's one property that declines to be annexed at this point. If it were not annexed, it would leave it as an island. We already have some piece of that. But the implications of this, and we have spent time with the property owner and talked with them about the pros and cons and what really the deadlines that need to be met. But the bottom line for us as we began to look at this is that were we to leave an island of unannexed property in the middle of Elmhurst, several things occur. First, one could build anything on that property that would not be subject to Elmhurst zoning codes. So we would have a lot in the middle of a residential area of Elmhurst, would not have to pay attention to our setbacks, to our building codes, to any of that. We would be responsible primarily to county building codes, county setbacks. So in and of itself, I think that's difficult. We also know that if we had one property simply sitting there, some of the issues around protection, fire protection, would our police really not go there? Would our fire department really not go there? Would we allow a building there not built to our codes that might spread, if there was a fire, might spread to other residents of Elmhurst? They would not be protected by our building codes. So while I think no one loves the idea of forcible annexation, as we began to look at it, this is really, we have all of these other property owners who really desire to be annexed into Elmhurst, and from our perspective, we actually think it would be a danger to folks in Elmhurst that for us not to do that, along with the basic principle of zoning that you don't spot zone, you don't leave an island in the middle of something else that's zoned, has another zoning, underlying zoning district with it. So for all those reasons, we would encourage you to support the recommendation of this report so we can move forward with really the infrastructure improvements that the residents want.
Very good. Any questions of the committee? Comments? Okay, seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll on the committee report before us.
Excuse me, sorry. Rose.
Aye.
Gutenkauf.
Aye.
Regan.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Gow. Absent. Hipskin.
Aye.
Moriarty.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Sapaniak.
Aye.
Morley.
No.
Lomnicki.
Aye.
Mulliner. Absent. 11 ayes, 1 nay, 2 absent.
11 ayes, 1 nay, that motion carries. Okay, very good. Reports and recommendations of appointed and elected officials. Any on the dais here? No? From myself, I don't really have much to update you on. I've been asked by several folks in the community over the last week, what does the recent court findings relative to O'Hare expansion mean for Elmhurst? And quite frankly, the answer is I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I don't know, you know, it's the court system, and it's never over till it's over, and it's not over. The city of Chicago is just not going to walk away from it. I hope it has major impacts to benefit Bensonville. I have no reason to not want Bensonville to benefit. And there are some important issues there about the activity in that neighborhood. If you've seen it, you should go see it. It's really an amazing thing, I think, juxtaposing that to 10 years ago or 5 years ago, a shocking thing to see, a neighborhood that's almost completely abandoned and somewhat torn down to maybe to no purpose. What some folks up in the neighborhood up there are now suggesting is that the city of Chicago has used they have a very unusual thing. I've asked some attorneys this, and I've asked this question: is this the only municipality in the United States that has the right to condemn properties in other municipalities? And most of them quickly say, oh, no, that's not that unusual. I mean, on the grand scale of our nation, it probably exists other places. And I say, okay, could you point me to one? And no one has ever done that. The way that these things are handled usually is some sort of a port authority or larger public entity than simply a municipality to own a critical piece of infrastructure. I believe that that airport over here field is a critical piece of infrastructure for our area. Illinois is about transportation. I think we learned this in the recent debate about the purchase of the railroad that rings Chicago by the Canadian National Railroad. The city of Elmhurst took a stance in favor of that purchase for a couple of reasons. Principally, the two major reasons to be in favor of that are locally, has a chance of reducing the amount of train traffic through the city of Elmhurst. And at the end of the day, we're responsible to the citizens of the city of Elmhurst. And most people, any people that you ask in Elmhurst, less train traffic would be better than more train traffic. Having said that, there's kind of a greater overriding concept here, which is that this needed to be approved by the federal government. The federal government took control of railroads out of the hands of governors, county board chairmen, and mayors well over 100 years ago, because they couldn't develop railroads in the United States if mayors and aldermen and trustees and village presidents had anything to do with it. And it was obviously deemed to be more important than that. So my point is, to bring this back to O'Hare, these are critical pieces of infrastructure. They provide thousands upon thousands of jobs, and that means they support thousands and thousands of families and tens of thousands of children, et cetera. You get my drift. But then the entity that controls that airport should be responsible to the region. Since it has a regional benefit and a regional impact, that entity should exist as a regional entity, typically handled in other states as a port authority. Not so in Illinois. So that's kind of unfortunate. Now, as I was circling back again, that the story I'm hearing from Bensonville is that they're scared that the city will never build their southern runway, and that this area that used to be a neighborhood is just going to end up being, will be put to economic use relative to the airport, but mostly in the form of warehousing, cargo handling, et cetera, which really, I believe, is overstating, over-leveraging the reason for the legislation that allowed the city of Chicago to do this, in my view. So I'm sorry I can't give folks a definite answer. If you ask 10 people in Bensonville what's going on up there, you get 10 different answers. They're scared, they're worried, I'm worried for them, and we'll continue to pay as much attention to it as we can, as long as we can. But the actual answer to the question of what's going to happen next, I think this is going to proceed through the courts, and maybe, hopefully, Bensonville will be able to wrangle out some significant concessions. We'll just have to wait and see. Mr. Borchard, what else did you have for us under reports and recommendations?
I have done, sir.
Okay, very good. We then move on to ordinances. We have an ordinance to consider this evening. It's O-01-2009. It's an ordinance approving the development of, well, that's the title. I'll let the clerk read the title.
An ordinance approving a development agreement with 603-635 Rogers, LLC, York 2nd. It's Schiller Court facade.
Okay, very good. You have the ordinance before you. I need a motion to put this in play in front of the council. You can do that. Alderman Rose moves. And a second. Mr. Bram seconds. Very good. Thank you. Discussion on this ordinance. We've discussed this at some length, just for background for the folks viewing in or in the audience this evening at length. In executive session, there had to do some issues having to do, and some issues embedded in this ordinance having to do with ownership and transfer of property and various property rights, and then facade program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, discussion. Anybody? Alderman Gutenkauf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been kind of aware of this strip of alleyway for a long time. It's in the First Ward, and occasionally I get calls from residents about the state of tattered banners that have been up for a long time. And so I'm really thrilled to see a movement to upgrade this passageway to really tie it in with the rest of downtown. And I think this is going to be a great enhancement and will help pull it all together. It ties York Road into a parking area and helps move pedestrian traffic through the space. Reading through the ordinance, so I've got at least one question, and I'm hoping that someone can help clarify for me. Under Section 4, Paragraph C, signage, it's on page 4. I'm not sure I really understand what this is describing, because, and the reason I bring it up is because once we pass this ordinance, the regulations that are spelled out in here will then be what the owner has to follow, which is different from our code. And so I wanted some clarification on at least this section about, it's the last sentence. The city further represents that only the area of that part of a banner projecting onto Schiller Court from the project site and the property owned by 136, which is used to advertise an on-premise business, shall be included in the calculation of allowable signage. And I wonder if that means that any sign flat against the building that isn't projecting out isn't calculated in the allowable signage. I'm not really clear.
Okay. Well, I think my recollection of the discussions were that, as you know, there are a lot of things that are to be attached to the building that make it look better, that make it more presentable, as you said, make it more part of York Road, allow for more walk-through traffic, more welcoming. Those things, someone could say, well, that door, which really isn't a door, but it's made to look like a door, is advertising the business inside, and so is a sign. That window, that fall window, is a sign. Just the window itself, the window frame. So that's the first part, to clarify that that wouldn't be part of the sign calculation. But then the second part, which I think was really a little bit more on target, was this concept of the Trump Loy paintings inside the windows. And the concept here is there will be two windows facing the alley that look like storefronts that are for businesses that don't exist, or don't exist, unfortunately, in Elmhurst anymore. And I don't know that it's settled which ones they'll be, so I don't want to mention names, and I'll leave that up to the property owner when the time comes. But the point is that there would be glass, and it might, I'll use my name. It might say Tom's Haberdashery, and then there'll be a sign that says Tom's Haberdashery, and then there'll be a painting there, and it looks like a men's clothing store. Someone might say, well, that's a sign. There's a sign there for Tom's Haberdashery, and that's a sign. And the idea is to make sure that nobody gets that confused with a real sign for a real business, that it's part of the decoration of the alley to, as you said, Alderman Gutenkauf, make it more attractive, more welcoming, more seeming like York Road, more seeming like a street. It's no more business than that fake street inside the Museum of Science and Industry, if you've ever been in there, where they have, you know, the antique car on the cobblestone street, and then there's a couple of businesses there. I think there's a movie theater and a little grocery store and some other things. That's, you know, that looks like a business, but clearly the city of Chicago wouldn't hold those fakes inside that museum to be real signs and try to enforce the sign ordinance. So, now, Mr. Borchard, please don't embarrass me too much if I'm way off on a folly of my own, but see if I'm more or less in the ballpark here.
I think you're accurate, Your Honor, but to take another tact at answering the question, the sign ordinance does apply to this property, and it does apply to the side yard but we're allowing the side yard on Schiller Court to be treated as frontage from the purposes of the sign ordinance. And in that regard, all of the signs advertising businesses on Schiller Court will be calculated and they will be regulated. But if, as the mayor alluded to, if there's an ornamental banner, that ornamental banner would not be included as signage for the business as it relates to the signage which the businesses are using in advertising their businesses. So, did that help?
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion before us to approve O-01-2009. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Rose.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Regan.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Gow, absent. Hipskin.
Aye.
Moriarty.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Sapaniak.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Lomnicki.
Aye.
Mulliner, absent. 12 ayes, 0 nays, 2 absent.
12 ayes, 0 nays, that motion carries. Okay, very good. 6A is resolved. We move on to 7, other business. 8, announcements.
I
Yes?
have an announcement.
An announcement?
With
Clerk
all
Spencer?
due respect to the Elmhurst Independent edition of January 14th, I believe it is. Can't seem to find my... there was... I want to make a clarification. The last day petitions can be filed for the consolidated election is January 26th at 5 p.m. That's a Monday. So I just wanted to clarify that. Last day for filing petitions, January 26th, 5 p.m. at the clerk's office.
And that's what it's always been, right? I mean, that's not, you're not changing anything.
No, there was a mistake in the
Just a
newspaper.
typo or a mistake
Yes.
in the newspaper? One of
The newspaper said Friday, it's
Okay.
Monday.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, I now need a motion to enter into executive session so that we might discuss matters of land acquisition. Can I have a motion for that issue? Alderman Shea moves. Alderman Gutenkopf seconds. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Okay, Gutenkopf seconds. Shea. Aye. Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Regan.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Gow, absent. Hipskin.
Aye.
Moriarty.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Sapaniak.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Lomnicki.
Aye.
Mulliner, absent. 12 ayes, 0 nays, 2 absent.
12 ayes, 0 nays. That motion carries. Okay, very good. Ms. Borchard, you anticipated that we're going to be staying in this room? Or?
Oh.
Yeah, all right. To it.
And the reporter.
Right, okay. Couple issues of housekeeping here. The city clerk's going to take a moment to get our recording system set up and running, because by state statute, we must record executive session. We're going to have to ask the general public to excuse themselves from our room. I will tell them, they or the press are more than welcome to hang around to see if anything comes out of this evening. But to answer the oft-asked posed question, no, we do not anticipate and we will not be taking any action this evening after executive session. We're just going to go home. And then we'll either be happy or not happy with what happens. So, thank you very much. Ask you to please clear the room. And, yeah, 2 minutes. I'm going to take advantage of the 2-minute break.